If you live in one of these cities, you still have time to get out, ladies and gentlemen. Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past I have talked about C40 cities. And these are cities that are supposed to be going to pretty much zero or net zero carbon emissions by the year 2030. And there are some in several different countries. I think altogether there's 100 or 100 and some C40 cities. And I found this great article that was just recently published on this, so I thought that I'd go over it with you. And please come and visit this website because they have a whole bunch of great news articles that are pretty much happening right now, that are recent. You know, they're not like old, years old. But here they're stating the obvious as per a publication that was put out by the C40, which states that by the year 2030, these 14 American cities have a target of banning meat, dairy, and private vehicles. And ladies and gentlemen, 2030 is right around the corner. If C40 cities' climate aims are carried out, people will perish. And that is true. When you take away energy, then you're taking away fuel. That's what energy is. What are you? What am I? We're all a big clump of energy, and it takes energy in order for something to stay alive. And the more energy they take away from people, the less people that there will be ultimately on the planet. It just makes sense. 14 major American cities are part of a globalist climate organization known as the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group. And I talked about this on a video a while back, but this here has hyperlinks that will allow you to go to their sites, so I'm not even going to bother telling you, go watch my video. This is a great article and it has good references that you can actually click on and it takes you right there. All right, which has an ambitious target by the year 2030 of zero meat consumption, zero dairy consumption, 3 new clothing items per year, I remember going over that, and 0 private vehicles. And you are able to fly one time every 3 years for a distance of no more than, 1,500 kilometers per person. C40's dystopian goals can be found in, and if you click right here, the future of urban consumption in a 1.5 degrees Celsius world report, which was published back in 2019 and reportedly re-emphasized in 2023. And I think I was one of those people re-emphasizing it when I went over that on the video that I posted. The organization is headed and largely funded by Michael Bloomberg. You all know who that is? I think we all know who that is. Previous mayor, I believe was, of New York. Either previous mayor of New York or previous governor of New York. I don't remember which one. Nearly 100 cities across the world make up the organization, and its American members include Austin. All right, these are the cities in America, okay? And these cities, this C40 is supported by the mayors in these cities. I don't know how a mayor of a city can go into an agreement with an NGO that is outside of the country that they're serving. You know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen? How can a mayor it's almost kind of like signing a treaty with an NGO, non-governmental organization, that resides outside of the country that they are serving. But anyways, I digress. Austin, Boston, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York, or New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. And this is why videos like this are important. Because do you know that this is going on in the city that you live, if you live in one of these cities, ladies and gentlemen? And all of these cities are pretty well populated cities, as you can see. Media coverage of C40 cities' goals has been relatively sparse, and of course it is. The few media personalities and news outlets who have discussed it have been heavily attacked by the corporate fact checkers. Well, I want you to go ahead and fact check all of this yourself. Click on this link, especially right here. Click on this link, the future of urban consumption in a 1.5 degrees Celsius world. You click on that link and you'll be able to go check it for yourself. It is their documents, all right? And remember what I told you about that Mount Tonga explosion back in 2021. I think it was January, February 2021, that spewed over 40 trillion gallons of water vapor into the atmosphere, and it's starting to cause global warming, which will last for about the next 5 years. They're going to use the globe getting warmer in the next few years because of that eruption as a way to try to scare people into achieving the agenda that they want you to head into, i.e. 15-minute cities, no eating meat, no dairy, no driving vehicles, etc., etc., ladies and gentlemen. This is why you have to educate yourself a lot farther beyond what you're just listening to here. Go on here, on this link that I'm going to leave you, click on the hyperlinks, take a few minutes to find out, hey, this does make sense. I can see this with my eyes that they're starting to do this. Why isn't the media covering this, etc.? But again, I digress. In a fact-check aimed at conservative commentator Glenn Beck, AFP fact-checked claimed that the banning of meat and dairy and limits on air travel and clothing consumption were actually not policy recommendations. AFP quotes a paragraph from the original The Future of Urban Consumption in a 1.5 C-Degree World report, which reads, "This report does not advocate for the wholesale adoption of these more ambitious targets in C40 cities. Rather, they are included to provide a set of reference points that cities and other actors can reflect on when considering different emission reductions, alternatives, and long-term urban visions." So pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, that is their objective, right? That is their objective, but they're kind of putting it in a way that they can say it's not. So they're kind of like thinking ahead. When they put out these publications, they're thinking ahead to these fact checks where people can be challenged and say, well, they technically didn't say this because they said this, but what did they really mean? Well, I'll leave that up to you, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think you need to be putting away meat? You think that would be a good idea for you to be putting away meat for long term? Either canning your own meat or buying canned meat. If you haven't seen the video that I put out yesterday, I believe it was, canned meats, canned items are going to get a lot more expensive in the near future. So go check that video out. Hopefully it will encourage you to go out and stock up on canned items. And canned items, ladies and gentlemen, they last a very long time, according to the USDA as well. And they continue to say, but this paragraph, likely included in the report as a liability in the case of pushback, exactly what I just said, seems to directly contradict the meaning of target, which is, in this context, can be defined as a desired goal. The target of eliminating meat, dairy, and private vehicles by 2030 is based on a future vision of resource-efficient productions and extensive changes in consumer choices, the report notes. But how is it that these changes in consumer choices are going to come about? Taxation. That's just my input. I'm not reading this. Taxation. How do you change a population's behavior? One great way to change it is to change the law, right? To make it illegal. But one way to change it is also to tax them more or to make it more expensive for them to get those things. So if you go to buy a pound of ribeye and now it's $75 a pound, are you more likely to get it now than you were last year when it was only $12 a pound, let's say? No, you're not more likely to get it now unless you're earning a whole bunch more. And one thing that we've noticed and realized with inflation is that your paychecks never keep up with the rise in prices that come about because of the inflation in the money supply. And I think I covered this part as well. The fact checkers' insistence that C40 cities explicitly state climate goals are somehow insincere is even more unconvincing, given that we are watching them start to unfold right in front of our eyes, and that is true. This year, in lockstep with C40 cities 2030 aims, New York City Mayor Adams announced that they will place caps on the amount of meat and dairy served by city institutions such as schools and prisons. I remember covering that, where in New York City the Mayor Adams, said that they want to reduce the consumption of meat in New York City by 33%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, or maybe not the consumption of meat, but the consumption of emissions that consuming meat puts out, which is pretty much the same thing. And meanwhile, the UK has banned the sale of new gas-powered vehicles after 2030. And France has banned short-haul flights to cut on carbon emissions. And if you all remember me covering and reporting on that, Germany is now wanting their citizens to consume only about 2 grams, I believe, or so of protein per day, or meat per day, which comes out to like just a few ounces of meat per month. A few ounces per month, right? I might get my numbers mixed up, but you get the gist. They're pretty much telling their German citizens to consume a heck of a lot less meat products and protein products than what they currently are, to save the planet, of course. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing against anyone that wants to eat nothing but a vegetarian diet. By all means, if you want to eat bugs, if you want to eat worms, lizards, whatever it is, by all means, do so. But do not be fooled into thinking that because you give up protein, because you give up meat, that you're going to have a better standard of living. You're not. And listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, something we've talked about in the past as well. Climate activists are also advocating for climate lockdowns. Imagine that. In the same way that they were advocating for the lockdowns during the health crisis. Ideas floated for a climate lockdown have ranged from shuttering people in their homes and restricting air travel to providing a universal basic income and introducing a maximum income level and pushing you into electric vehicles that they can then be in charge of how much electricity you can actually use. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a system of control that we are headed into if we keep going down the same path that we are now headed. A system of total control. Put in a CBDC, now they can tell you what you can buy, what you can eat, how much you can spend, when you can spend it, how much you will have, how much electricity you can have, how much electricity you can put into your vehicle, where you can actually go. Because if you take your vehicle out of town and it needs electricity, are they going to let you use your digital wallet on one of the electrical charging stations that's 50 miles, 100 miles away from where you live? Well, more likely not, because you're going to get stuck living in a 15-minute city. At least that's the way I see it. All right? This is just me thinking out loud, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hoping that none of this comes to be, but all you have to do is open your eyes. Go ahead and take a look at this article. Come back to it. I'll leave the link of this on a pinned comment so you can come and take a look at it for yourselves. It's not that long of a read. We were actually almost towards the end. But there's only so much of these articles sometimes that I can take, ladies and gentlemen. What is the message? Get prepared as best as you can. If you eat meat, put away as much meat as you possibly can so that you can get through this period of where they're going to really stomp down on meat eaters, ladies and gentlemen. I think Bear Grylls is one of them. He used to be a vegetarian, and he eventually said, I can't do this anymore. I'm just getting sick all the time. And he went to being from vegetarian to being like a meat eater of like 95% of his diet is now meat eating. All of the things that you see happening now, lockdowns, you can't eat meat, you can't go from here to there. No, you can't tell people that if you stand outside in the sun that vitamin D is good for you. You can't do that. So don't do that. All right? YouTube will not allow you to do that, to tell people that vitamin D is good for you. You can't do that, and I'm not telling you that, right? Why is it that it seems to me like a lot of the things that we're told by the mainstream media and the pundits and the people that want to control us, a lot of the things that we're told to do are things that maybe don't make sense as far as them being good for us to do. But I'll leave it at that. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you come back to this article and read it for yourselves and click on the hyperlinks so that you can see that all of the documentation of what they're proposing is actually there behind the scenes. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.